Hey guys, this is Kamal Sharma and in this video we will talk about SQL and NoSQL databases. Database is the core component of any system. Choosing the database solution is completely dependent on the use case. We will talk about different database solutions and their importance to choose over another. Databases are mainly divided in two categories, relational and non-relational. Let's first talk about relational or SQL database. SQL database stores data in tables and each record is stored in row and columns. Relational databases are strongly consistent, atomic, durable and fully transactional. Relational database maintains relationship between tables using keys. Keys that uniquely identify a row in tables are called primary key, and these primary keys can be used by other tables to create a relationship between tables, and in those tables this primary key would be called foreign keys. Example of relational databases are MySQL, Oracle, SQLite, Postgres, etc. Let's talk about some of the major features of SQL type database. Strongly consistent. This type of database support ACID property, so they are strongly consistent and transactional. Structural. SQL database is structural, means before storing data, we decide on columns and their data types. That makes it easier to manage, less challenging than others. SQL is very popular in the market and people have been using it from decades, so you can get better support in case of any problem. So where can we use it? We can use SQL database when data is structured and change not expected in near future. If we are using in an application that needs ACID compliance like banking, then SQL can be a good option. If application accepts heavy updates, then a strong consistency database like SQL can be helpful to persist all the changes, because that is not possible with eventual consistent database. If you are expecting vertical scaling instead of horizontal, then you can use SQL type database. These were some of the use cases for relational database. Next, let's talk about non-relational database or NoSQL database. So first, let's talk about why we thought about NoSQL database. These days, softwares are developed based on the agile methodology, and it was quite difficult with relational database since we are expected to decide the schema at a very early stage and any new change is going to affect the entire table or data. But NoSQL gives us liberty for that, and we don't need any predefined structure. Scaling was another most eligible reason for increasing interest about NoSQL database. Horizontal scaling is very challenging in SQL database due to its relational nature. NoSQL database doesn't need any predefined structure, and there are many types of NoSQL databases. Some databases are strongly consistent and provide ACID properties like relational database, and some provides eventual consistency. NoSQL databases are mainly divided in four categories. Let's talk one by one. First is key value stores. Key value databases are simplest databases. Data would be stored in terms of key and value. These databases use index structure to retrieve data, so they are often very fast for data retrieving in constant time. Some example of key value stores are Redis, Dynamo, Google Data Store. Key value databases are very much scalable due to easy partitioning on the keys. These kind of databases can be useful for session management, cache, user profile or recommendation engine. Next, we will talk about document databases. Document databases stores data in the form of document. Each document has a key to identify the document. So to understand it, we can say it's kind of key value database, but the main difference would be that value would be in the form of document and the document often stored in form of JSON. The example of document databases are CouchDB and MongoDB and Google Cloud Firestore. These kind of databases can be useful when we don't have defined structure of data. For example, product catalog. Every product can have a separate specifications. It's very difficult to define all different types of products in a single database structure. So with a document database, we can define separate specifications without any worry. The another use case can be for content management systems, where we can store blogs in form of document or storing emails. Third type of NoSQL database is wide column database. The wide column database stores data in columns and similar columns grouped together and stored contiguously on the disk. These groups are called column families, and one column families can have a number of columns. It might look like a relational database table structure, but it stores data in columns instead of rows, and that is very reason for its highly scalable nature. Example of wide column databases are Cassandra and Essbase and Google Bigtable. These kind of databases can be useful for write heavy applications, reporting, recommendation and time series data. Fourth type of NoSQL databases are graph databases. Graph databases are getting popular these days. It stores data in form of entities, nodes and relationship between these nodes. A single node can have multiple properties. Infinite Graph, OrientDB and Neo4j are famous database graphs. If we compare with RDBMS, then you can understand tables as graph, a particular row as node, columns as properties, constants like foreign key as a relationship, and instead of joins, graph would use traversal. So which one to choose? First of all, it depends on the use case. For big applications, we can use more than one database in a single application. Relational database is better when we need to work on high transaction applications, asset compliance, and if planning to run a lot of reporting queries. The other region can be structural data. NoSQL database can be used for unstructured data, or we can say if we are not sure about change in the coming future. If you have large volume of data, and mostly NoSQL databases are good for horizontal scaling comparatively to SQL database. This was the brief details of SQL and NoSQL database. If you have any question, comment or message me on LinkedIn. In the next video, we'll talk about big data solutions. Thanks for watching.